Hey, everybody, and welcome back for this episode of the Volume Up Theater. I'm one of your hosts, Nick.
I'm your other host, Heather.
She's the Heather host.
The other host.
Heather. Yeah, we are going to be bringing our mid-season review of The Last of Us HBO TV series. We're going to talk about episodes 2, 3, and 4, all here at once. And just kind of what we were thinking, like what our thoughts were. It's been a bit of a roller coaster, I guess, to start it off. What do you got, Heather, so far? Like, I kind of put my thoughts together.
For me, it's just been like the uphill part of the roller coaster. Like, I have thoroughly enjoyed this so far. It's surpassed my expectations.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I think that's the case from episode 1. I don't think it's gone any less.
I don't think it's peaked or come down.
No. I mean, maybe. Like, there's probably some points we're going to talk about during this where it did kind of drop a little for me.
But overall,
yeah,
we're on an upward slide.
Yeah, the equal parts of its sum or whatever, right? The sum of its parts, you know.
Yeah.
That whatever that line is that I can't remember right now. It is good. It's still good. Still hanging on. Probably so far, I'd still say probably one of the best, if not the best, post-apocalyptic television shows ever made.
Yep. I agree.
We've discussed Walking Dead. For any of the newbies who haven't listened to us before, we did talk about that, the beginning episode of Last of Us. We're familiar with Walking Dead. Heather's a bigger fan than me. We both dropped out at the same time, though. A lot like the other 13 million people that left during that season. That was a good show to start with. Our son is watching it now from the beginning. He's not familiar with it, so we're going to kind of watch the journey again with him. We're not watching alongside him, but
he talks to us about it all the time.
I think he would like The Last of Us. And as much as there's like, you know, very adult themes, it's not really like
no.
I mean, I won't call it kid friendly, but it's not a
to
bad
our
show
standards
for kids.
Of what we let our kids watch. Our oldest one is 13, and he would be okay.
Yeah.
Our youngest one, I don't think so.
Well, she's a little one, and
she's
squirmy and
she's
things.
Very
so
squirmy.
Yeah, there's a couple squirmy parts in episode 2 that they were squirmy as hell for me. One of the squirmiest, grossest things.
Yes.
It's just so off-putting was the way I put it in our Discord when we talked about that. So, but before we get really deep into it, that is one thing I do want to mention, everybody. We do have a Discord. It is part of the Loudthumbs channel Discord. So you can go over there and talk movies and TV with us over there. Thank you to everybody who has been doing that. We've been chiming in, not trying to ruin anything for anybody else going in there and wanting to talk. So spoilers may happen, but we're trying to avoid any spoilers as we continue going in. I'm in there more often than Heather, so everybody's got to give me a little bit of help to get her in there more often.
Sometimes there's just not enough hours in the day.
Yeah, it does happen that way. But we do have the links in the description below of the podcast. You guys can find our Discord and join us over there on the Loud Thumbs channel and talk movies, games, TV, entertainment, brews. We talk about it all over there. So that's always a good time. But to get into it, we're going to start with episode 2. Infected is the name of this one. And essentially the gist of that episode was just to give you a little bit more like backstory on Tess and Joel, kind of where they came from, but still kind of leave some answers.
Yeah, you don't
some
quite
things unanswered, right? On purpose.
And you find out that, you know, where the fungus infection started.
I guess that was kind of the bigger point to the episode because it did start that way.
Right.
Just finding out that it is flour that it came from, which was a very big theory after episode 1.
Yes.
That ended up being true.
Yep.
Kind of a cool beginning of a story of anything zombie related. Different, I guess, maybe not cool.
Very different. Because if you think about The Walking Dead, like, I mean, I don't remember exactly how it started, but I feel like it was like
mad cow disease or something.
Tainted meat or something. Yeah. And that's what you always hear is like tainted meat.
It's always that.
It's always the meat. And then in this one, you know, they're like, oh, it's in the flour. And you're like, oh my gosh, like
a little more original, right?
A little more original, a little more possible.
True.
You're like, okay, this is kind of weird. And then you realize how Joel didn't get infected because of his diet, and they were out of things, and he hadn't been to the store.
Yep, he's on the low carb Atkins diet, right?
Yeah.
But I liked that. I liked them getting the scientist, and she was like to the point. What are you going to do? She says, well, there's only one thing I can advise, and that's drop a bomb. Big bomb. Just take a bomb and drop it in the city. Yep. And she essentially has already accepted her demise. Like, she knows there's nothing you can do to fight this other than kill everything around it. And you can tell they did. I mean, then we get to see the outside in the daylight, because when episode 1 ended, it was just a dark, rainy night. Right. And we do see the daylight scenes that we saw in the game. Buildings, just skyscrapers leaning against each other and everything. Very post-apocalyptic. And this episode, to me, I think the thing I kept saying the most in this episode was they have some budget here. Like, this is great. Like, it looked beat up. All of the cityscapes, just them walking to their next point was how in the hell they got so many cars on a road, and they all have like so much vegetation on them. And
for me too, is like, yeah, it's the apocalypse and there's all this death and destruction everywhere, but it still looked beautiful. Like, I
wouldn't want to live there though.
I mean, I wouldn't want to live there either, but I'm like, oh, the grass and the trees and the flowers, and you're like, okay, like it was still bright.
There was a lot of nature that we don't see right now because it's all under concrete and cars that had taken over the concrete and the cars. So yeah, you're right. I mean, it was beautiful in the way that it was artistically done. Is the way I would say, for sure. Yeah, I wouldn't want to live there. We're like, wow, this place is pretty. Let's move in.
Let's right next to this abandoned building.
No thanks. But yes, as far as their scope went and where they were going for the design, they nailed it. Like, it looked great, like the game and everything. But it was really, really good to see. Like, they made sets that were enormous, and then they used really good blocking techniques and mixture of everything. You couldn't tell where fake stopped and real, ended or started. It was awesome.
And I guess maybe for me, why I think everything looks so pretty is, like, if you think of The Walking Dead, it was always dark.
Yeah.
There were very few episodes where there was anything light. And to have a second episode come through and be so bright.
Yeah. Outside, and I was walking in the daylight.
What? This is the apocalypse, and it's bright and it's not dark. Like, in Walking Dead, the zombies usually attack more at night when it's dark.
That's at least what they lead you to believe.
Yeah,
they never show you any other time they do it, but earlier on, you did have that issue, not issue, but you did have that setup in Walking Dead where you did have some daylight stuff going on before you got to Atlanta. But this felt different and fresh, and I really liked that. They weren't like going off of any old tropes. They were making something that a lot of television people haven't seen. Now, we've seen it playing the games and so on, but not this way on television, which was great to see. The effort that was really put in. It was fantastic.
And they have put a lot of effort into it. Like, props to HBO Max, because they spend the money.
HBO putting the money into the good stuff. That's how you got to do it, right? Netflix is coming with password sharing. HBO, everybody might just jump, pay $5 more and go to HBO Max, because you don't have to worry about that on them. They'll just let you share at least up to 5, whatever. But yeah, they have the money to put toward it, but I mean, they're getting it back.
Netflix is locking up their money, and HBO is just like, here, take my money.
Yep. Yeah, they're getting it. They know how to do it. Like, I don't know how they're figuring it out, but they're doing a great job with the shows they're getting out there.
We also find out in this episode, they find out that Ellie is basically immune.
Yes.
Because they have the scanner, because when they get caught.
Right.
And then she gets bit again in this episode.
Yeah, and they kind of flip out. Like, what do you mean? What's going on? And she's like, no. And she explains it all. Joel still does not believe her. Continues through to the latter part of the episode. They're trying to get to where the Fireflies are, and they do get there, and they're done. They're dead. And a different scenario this time they ended with was before in the games, they were kind of like fighting off like the military, the Fedra. To like save time so they could get away, and that was kind of how Tess dies. They did that a different way in this one, where it was a horde of zombies that get woken up, because you find out that all the infected now have the ability to read and feel.
It's like
the
a
fungus.
hive mind is what they call it.
Yeah.
Which is different.
Yeah. So that was different from the game. In this episode, they've been doing that pretty much every episode. They find one little thing and they change it, except for another episode we'll talk about where they change like the whole episode from the game. But the other thing was clickers. We did get to see clickers for the first time in this one in the museum, which that scene was done really well. Just them trying to get around and, stay away from them. It was very intense and, dramatic. And I liked that a lot. I thought that was really well done.
I thought the clickers were really cool. Like, obviously I've seen them in the game,
right?
But like to see them on TV and then like to hear them making their clicking noises, and
it was the same people.
It was so crazy.
Yeah, they used the same people that did the voices and the noises for the clickers as the game. So it was 1-to-1, like you couldn't mistake it. And it's a very, I don't want to say iconic sound, but it's very, noteworthy.
Distinct.
It's very distinct. Yes.
They've been doing that though with the show. They've been throwing in like people here and there from the game.
Yeah.
Which I think is so cool. Like, it just shows how much effort they're putting into it and how much that they care about the source material.
Yes.
And I love it when shows do that.
Not taking advantage of it.
No. Yeah. Like, I love that. Like,
yeah, it's
because what else? I mean, that's what you fell in love with in the first place was the game.
Yeah.
Like the source material from that. And then to see it on a show and just being taken like a notch or two up.
Yep.
Is freaking awesome.
Yeah, it's really, really well done. I love it too. Then obviously, the clickers, everything with the museum happens, and then they make their way to is it like a Capitol building or something along those lines they end up at the end? I don't remember 100%.
I think, or it's part of the museum.
Yeah, something like that. But then this is the most off-putting part. One of the grossest, creepiest, skin crawliest things that I have ever witnessed on television, and nothing really bothers me too much, but this one hung on to me for a day or two of just how bad it was. But after Tess shows she's been bitten, she essentially sacrifices herself now, and now has Joel believing finally that Ellie is immune because she's been bitten the same amount of time. And it's already like way up in her neck and down her shoulder blade.
Yeah.
And Ellie's is just like a couple little scratches and it's done nothing and it's basically stopped. And in the midst of her trying to light a lighter, Tess, I don't know why they took so long lighting the lighter, but whatever.
Yeah.
Gets approached by one of the zombies and he like has this absolutely disgustingly creepy, horrifyingly gross thing coming out of his mouth, a bunch of tendrils, and just like essentially like makes out with her. Yeah, from like the fungus. Like he gets up and he like kind of makes out with her, like he's like French kissing her. And it in so many ways I was not like happy about that part. First, I felt like it was gross. It was we've already established this.
Yeah.
But it took away her badassery to me. Like it made her seem like a dumbed down character now. Yeah. Like she was in shock. So I can understand that. But she also could have defended herself. She could have pushed the thing away. She could have done more stuff. But instead she just kept trying to light the lighter while standing still. Like what's the point?
But maybe it has partly to do with the hive mind. Like it's starting to take her over, and where she was bitten at, like that could quickly go up into her neck and brain.
We could theorize. I mean, we could spend the rest of the episode theorizing on that.
I agree. That was very off-putting and made my skin crawl to watch those things come out of the mouth. And I think it was more that than the fact that they were like kissing or whatever.
But that was definitely the worst part.
But it was just like, I don't know. And then I just think like,
it's like they were going into her or whatever, to transform her faster or something. But it just seemed like I would have been okay if they wanted to give you the gross part. Like, okay, that's disgusting, creepy, different. They're establishing something there. It was an establishing moment in the show. But to have her completely like take it, even after the lighter lights, like, if it would have been badass if they had the lighter light and she threw the lighter to the ground and then shoved him back and you see him explode along with all the rest of it. And then she gets a cool moment at the end,
They just she just kind of rolled over and died.
Yeah, she just accepted it and ended it. And I was kind of bummed about that. You know what I mean? But Anyway, it wasn't a deal breaker. It was just one of those like,
it was just like, oh,
that was creepy as hell. Why couldn't she have been cooler in the end? But it served the same purpose. She had to save, the other two.
Mm-hmm.
The only way to do that was to sacrifice herself and blow the whole building up with a bunch of gas tanks and barrels. But moving on to the episode 3, which is called Long, Long Time. This one's where this episode diverges a lot from the video game, like a lot. Essentially nothing in this was in the game. You don't even, I guess we should kind of establish the episode, but this is just where you find out that it goes 20 years ago, and it shows them first locking down everywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And Bill, who is Nick Offerman he's Ron Swanson, guys.
Yeah,
I mean, he's from Parks and Rec.
Literally was Ron Swanson.
He is literally Ron Swanson.
Literally.
So he is holed up in his basement, and he's got a little hideout, so nobody knows he's there.
Mm-hmm.
They clear the whole town out, take everybody away, and he's left there now in the town alone, and he just creates his own little Alexandria, from Walking Dead. If you're familiar with Walking Dead, hopefully you are watching this. Puts up a fence, puts up a bunch of traps, starts planning food, gets some chickens, and he's doing his thing. He's surviving. He's gonna make sure he survives this apocalypse, because he's a prepper. He's been prepping for a long time.
He's the kind of friend I want.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy you want in your back pocket. You probably want him in all your pockets, And Bill in the video games, he was the same kind of guy. So they kind of built the same character, but then they tell a totally different story for Bill, where his path only overlaps with Joel in the episode once. And that was when they established their first meeting, where he's a little gruff to Bill.
You don't
they're gruff to each other.
See their relationship evolve.
No, you don't. You see them meet, and they have a relationship. It's implied the whole episode. Where they've just kind of been doing stuff for each other. At the I think it was episode 2, The Infected, there was a point where might have been the beginning of this episode, where Joel sat down and was eating some strawberries out of a container. Those strawberries were from Bill. So there's these little connection things that they show you that you don't pay attention to maybe. But
the music,
because that was a Frank thing. So Bill and Frank meet in this episode, and they strike up a relationship over dinner. Frank gets to take a hot shower. He can't believe it. It's amazing. He was trying to make his way to Maryland, or is it Maine? He was trying to head somewhere, and came across one of Bill's traps and fell in a giant sinkhole and couldn't get out. And turns out they have very like interests. They fall in love, and the relationship is the two of them the entire episode, which was an hour and 20 minutes. It was a long one. It was a long episode. So before I keep talking, give everybody out there what your thoughts were on this episode. And
so I don't remember much of Bill from the video game, except for the fact that he was a prepper and he helped them out. They traded with him. They had a relationship with him that actually was a very good relationship.
His point in the game mainly was just to give him a vehicle. They needed a vehicle. That was his biggest piece.
So from my perspective on this, I enjoyed it, but I'm also kind of a romantic.
Yeah.
Their relationship was beautiful. They found common ground and fell in love with each other, and it was literally them against the world. That was it. And then, Frank gets sick and tells Bill, listen, I can't continue living like this. Crush up some pills, put it in my wine. And Bill understands, and Bill has no reason to live without Frank. So he
was his mission.
He decides his mission is over and he wants to be with Frank. The whole concept of the episode to me was very beautiful. It struck a chord. I enjoyed it. I know a lot of people have been talking and they're like, it's so different and they didn't really need to do this. And but they did. I feel like it gives you more of the humanity side of it rather than just I got to run from a bunch of clickers.
Now, Yeah. I'm not trying to cut you off.
Or I'm being shot at. Like it shows you a little bit of those relationships of people and how they're surviving. Yeah. I mean, hell, he cooked freaking 5-course dinners and they had wine and played the piano and
they were living good in the apocalypse.
They were living good. Like, if I'm going to be in the apocalypse, if we're in the apocalypse, that's how I want it to be. Like us with like a fence around us, chain link fence, and just living our lives.
Yeah. I mean, no technology. No. What else? We're going to have all kinds of time, right? So we might as well.
And if you go, I'm going. Like,
done deal, guys. You heard it here.
So I think I just related to it a lot. And from my perspective, like if I was living in the apocalypse, that's how I would want it to be.
Yeah.
Like with the person I love the most and living our life and enjoying what time we have together.
Yep.
I wouldn't want to be on the run.
No, that makes sense. I get that. I will agree with everything you just said there. My thing here is I think that they could have made 2 episodes with Bill and Frank.
I agreed. I can see that. It would have been nice to see Bill and Frank's relationship with Joel and Ellie.
No, I don't. That's the thing. That's the whole thing. Like, I think they're doing amazing on this.
Mm-hmm.
I have pretty high confidence in myself when it comes to stuff. So when I can sit down and think about it and think it through, and I've had time to think this episode through, I've had a week or so.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the episode, the length of it was fine. The episode was fine. I had no problems with the episode. What I had a problem with was the lack of overlapping influence of those characters. Okay. Now, and not even Ellie. Like, Ellie could have stayed out of the picture, but what we could have had is we could have had Tess and Joel be the Ellie and Joel replacement of the game into the TV show. Mm-hmm. So even just to see, there was a battle scene where, you know, some I don't know what you want to call them, some scavengers or whatever, bandits show up, and, you know, Bill takes most of them out. Mm-hmm. Frank comes out to help him. Bill gets shot. Oh, Frank then saves Bill from dying. And, you know, then it kind of fast forwards a long time after that. And that's great. That was okay. However, I think it would have been better if there would have been like a 4-person dinner, like the second dinner, you know, the 10th dinner, make it the 10th dinner, whatever. After we see the original dinner with all 4 of them. Yeah, the first time that Tess and Joel and Frank and Bill all meet is a little tense between Bill and Joel. Mm-hmm. They're both like characters, you know, they both know what they want. They stick their guns. We're good. Literally, Bill has a gun on the table the whole time. But
Joel does give him good advice, though. Like, he tells them they will come for you.
Yep.
Like, you need to reinforce your.
And see, that's more. I thought about it, the perfect way of like, okay, let a year or 2 come by, and let there be another dinner, and let them have an established relationship now, and then let those bandits come in now.
Yeah.
And now we get to see that like moment of Joel and Bill working together, both taking care of the people they love, and the loved ones doing what they can to help out as well. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it would just build a little more, like, just to be able to have that somewhere in there. Maybe we get that in a flashback in the future episodes or something.
I think that probably would have been good too. It would have tied you a little more to Bill and Frank, like,
and into the games
a way, and not so much of just, we have this beautiful episode of this relationship of these 2 people, and that's all we get.
Right. You could have seen a little bit more of both of them on that aspect of it. I get why they did it. This episode's going to win awards. Nick Offerman's going to win Emmys and all kinds of stuff for this.
Ron.
That's right. So I like I said, I didn't really have any problems with the episode. It was slower, but we called it in episode 1 when we talked about this on the pod. You're going to have slow episodes. You're going to have filler episodes. This all counts and purposes was a filler episode. It filled in like backstory relationships, why there's 80s music going across the radio, what it means, you know, what's going on with, you know, those 4 characters. It filled in things. I just think that it could have given us 10 episodes instead of 9 for the season, and had that extra.
Yeah.
And I would have been, you know, completely satisfied along with a lot of other people in the world. But I don't want to say that I'm dissatisfied. Mm-hmm. I just know that I could have been a little bit more satisfied.
You could have got a little more out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I thought the relationship was good. I liked seeing the background, the backstory of, that connection, because you don't see that at all in the video game. You just hear Bill essentially tell Joel that was his partner, and Frank hangs himself in the video game, and Bill has to cut him down. So like it makes that now mean more when you play the game again. Like, wow, like you can really see it affects Bill, but you don't really know how bad it affects him because he's hiding a lot of it in the games. But different outcome in the show as far as like who lives and who dies was definitely changed, but I don't think in any sort of negative way.
No,
I felt that they portrayed the characters fabulously. Like,
I think so too.
Made total sense, and hopefully we get some more like flashbacks of them, like
that would be cool.
Doing some some trading or some palling around or something. But I don't think they will. I think they wanted to consolidate and be done. Too. But it was still really well done. Yeah, it was poetic. It was a poetic episode.
It was a poetic episode.
When you watch it, you'll agree.
And then they find the note. Ellie finds a note that says poor Joel, and then kind of goes through everything, and you're like, okay.
Yeah, and they've been dead for months now, I think, when they get there. So
he said that he left the window open, so it wouldn't stink. And it's like, so he's even thinking about the people he cares about and what it's going to be like for them. Yeah. He's helping them even before they get there.
Yeah, he was that prepper, man, all the way to the end. Like, he knew what was going to happen next, and he knew Joel was going to show up at some point. And
prepper with a fabulous wine collection.
Like, tons of wine, knew how to cook a steak and
rabbit.
I guess it wasn't steak.
Through the strawberries.
Yeah. It was really well done. It was definitely put in there for shock value, I want to say, because I know it shocked the internet. Like, to see Nick Offerman playing a character like he did, it was just unheard of. Like, you didn't think it was going to happen.
His wife convinced him to take the role.
Yeah, I knew he almost passed it up. So,
and she was like, "No, you need to do this."
Yeah,
and he was like, and she's like, "No, you need to do this."
There will be awards on his mantle this year, no doubt in my mind.
I hope so.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed it. I think it's worth every award he could win for it.
Oh yeah, and it was a mini movie, guys.
Yeah, so it was a mini movie.
It was very cool. So to end that one, Joel and Ellie get away. They get a truck and they get a battery and they get some food and some supplies, and they're loaded up, and they've kind of made their peace and said goodbye in their own way. Joel will not give Ellie a gun for any reason, but she finds one in a drawer and she takes it.
5-finger thief.
Yep.
She gets that 5-finger discount, so she just takes it.
She says nothing. She just takes off with it, and that's the end of the episode. They in the truck and they take off, and that takes us into episode 4, the most recent episode, which is called "Please Hold My Hand." Please hold to my hand. So they're traveling through Missouri in this one, on their way to Wyoming.
Yes,
and
trying to find Tommy.
Yep, they're looking for Tommy. That's the whole point. They needed the truck was to just get to Tommy, and Tommy is in
Wyoming.
He's in Wyoming, but they make it through Kansas City, and they get stopped at Kansas City. They have to make a detour, but up until that point, there's just kind of a road trip. It's like on the road again,
and you kind of get to see their relationship, Joel and Ellie's relationship, like blossom. And so I am a lover of all things punny.
Oh yeah, full of puns in this episode.
And I was like, yes, I love it. Like, this is so awesome. It was so nice to see them have moments together where they were laughing and
they
were talking
the shell.
And, like you can see that bond is there, and it's just getting stronger.
Yeah, they're very like-minded again. Yes, similar to Bill and Joel, but Ellie doesn't know it yet, and Joel doesn't want to admit it. So you can see that happening, and that shell kind of break, and they're kind of just opening the curtain a little more. Like, okay, come on in, we're good. I'll let you see some stuff that I don't let anybody else see, kind of thing. And it was nice to see, like her cracking a pun, and he's like, "You can go wait in the truck," that kind of stuff. And it's just his joking way of saying stuff. But she's like, well, you're never gonna get rid of him. I don't remember the book she runs into, but there's a book that she took, and it's full of puns. And she says the author's name is like, you're never gonna escape him. He's always gonna be around. And she puts in her backpack and goes. But yeah, they get stuck at a crazy blockade that was put in. They put like
a semi like jackknifed under the overpass, so they had to turn around.
And they go through the city, and I was like, "That's a bad sign. Bad. You don't do that.
You don't do that in Apocalypse. Don't go to the city."
Yeah. They get lost, and Joel gets mad at Ellie, and she's like, "I've been in a car for 24 hours." You know?
Yeah, because she can't read a map, and
yeah. And I guess before we go too far, right before that, they did have a like camp out that they did in the midst of a woods. They drove into a woods and stayed. And I still don't understand why, and we talked about this while the show was playing, but why the hell you wouldn't stay in the truck?
Yeah, why you wouldn't sleep like, inside the truck?
Sleep in the truck.
Crack the window a little bit, but...
Yeah, crack them all the way down. I don't care. But get in the truck. Like, sleep in the truck. I would sleep in the truck. Heather's like, I would even sleep in the bed of the truck, you know, like what the bed was full of supplies, but it's like the back seat and the front seats are fine. Go to sleep.
Why are you sleeping on the ground?
Yeah. And outside in the open, you don't know what's going to walk up, wolves or bears or clickers.
And then she even makes a mention, Ellie does, about the people he talked about, because he was telling her about how there are some very bad people. And she was like, will they find us? And he was like, no. And then he doesn't sleep a wink.
No, he's like, I'll sleep tonight and I'll drive 2 nights, and he sleeps none.
And you see at one point he is standing up holding the gun, like just looking around while she's sleeping on the ground. So you're kind of like, you kind of see him come out of his shell a little bit. Like, I'm sure he's very, what's the word? I don't know what the word is I'm looking for. He's very hesitant to form a relationship with her because of what happened with his daughter. But you can kind of see him coming out a little bit. Like, there's cracks to it. And you're like, okay, all right. I like where this is going. Like, I like the relationship that they're building here. Yeah.
Because they're cracking jokes at each other. She wakes up that morning and she's like, "Oh God, what the hell is this?" And he's like, "Oh, you don't like coffee?" And she's like, "No." She slams the coffee lid shut and stuff. And then she kind of gives him a bunch of shit about drinking coffee. She's like, "Is that what the Starbucks had in the QZ or whatever?" And he was like, "Yeah, there's refresher.
Yeah,
but
it wasn't this bad.
It's the same, you know." But yeah, I get it.
Yeah, and he says what Bill had wasn't as fresh. So he's making reference to things that Bill had left as well.
Because they have a truck full of his supplies. Right. So yeah, then they make their way through the city of Kansas City, and they actually get kind of
they end up like
not trapped, really.
Kind of. I mean, but not really.
Yeah, there was a guy trying to fool them, but Ellie got lost on the map. They see the QZ.
They're driving along. She's like, "Oh shit, is that the QZ?" And then they're like, Where's Fedra?
Yeah,
because there are no Fedra anywhere.
Yeah, they're gone. And then come to find out, they run into like a group of other baddies, which aren't fully described. I would say that they're probably fireflies. Maybe some Fedra mixed in there. It's hard to say right now. It's hard
to say. I feel like they're just a group of people who somehow managed to overthrow Fedra.
I thought that too.
And so I'm kind of like, okay, so I don't know if they're good. I think that some of them are good, but I think their leader is not good. Like, I think
she's
her
a little
name
crazy.
Is Kathleen.
She's a little crazy.
She is cray-cray. Yeah. Like, she is looking for whoever knows anything about what happened with her brother.
Yeah.
And she's looking for Henry because she thinks Henry ratted on him.
Yeah.
I mean,
Henry's the brother.
She freaking kills a doctor. Like, they legit have a doctor in those trailers, in the cells.
No, Henry's not the brother.
Yeah.
She thinks Henry ratted on the brother.
Right.
Yes.
So she's like questioning this doctor about ratting on her brother, and he's like, no. And then she's like, where's Henry? And he's like, I don't know. And then, like, somebody comes up in a shot, and she's like, well, if I have a doctor, will that save him? And they're like, no. And then she just gets pissed off and walks in and shoots the doctor. I'm like, how stupid can you be? Like, she's
emotional.
One of your most valuable assets is that damn doctor.
She's a loose trigger. You know what I mean?
Very much a loose trigger. So that has me a little worried, because I'm like, what's going to happen here?
Yeah, she's going to die is what's going to happen, because she's going to mess with the wrong people, and she's going to end up dead. Or a clicker, or whatever the big giant thing is that's underground in their like base that she's not telling anybody about, which is also another bad sign. I mean, she's a bad leader and she's going to die. So I don't see her lasting very long.
I don't either.
She acts the part great though. You can definitely like, oh God, I love to hate this woman, man. Oh man. You know, they got you on the hate train.
Yeah, and she almost, to me, it seems like she's a overwhelmed mother,
Mm-hmm.
like, and she's just flying by emotion.
Yep.
Like, she's not thinking anything through logically. She just knows what she wants and doesn't care what it takes to get it.
Yeah.
And the fact that, yes, there's something giant coming out of the ground, and the guy that's with her's like, shouldn't we tell people? And she's like, no, not yet. And
no,
he like looks at her.
We got to deal with what we're dealing with now first. I'm like, no, what are you talking about?
Yeah,
They're gonna things that kill everybody.
Yeah.
You don't know what it is. I have a prediction. I think it's the big giant bear looking thing. It's like an enormous zombie clicker that they showed in one of the trailers. But and it does come up out of the concrete in the thing. It's like in a street or something. But so that was kind of one of the big pivotal scenes, is like, what the hell is this giant thing that in the size of a pool that's broken through concrete that you just can't see yet. So that's going to definitely get answered this season. So that'll be great to see. But we see Ellie and Joel. They get into a fight right after they crash their vehicle, and Joel kills a guy into a firefight that breaks out. He has Ellie go and hide through a hole in the wall, and then there's another fight that breaks out, and then Ellie ends up having to use the gun that she took, and she shoots a guy that's fighting Joel and paralyzes him, and he's now freaking out and trying to save his own life and everything. And Joel takes the gun, sends her back, and he uses a knife and gotta save ammo. So that was great to see that kind of lean into the video game a little bit. And he takes the guy out and kind of apologizes to Ellie that she had to do that. She explains it wasn't her first time.
Right. And he's like, but still a kid your age, like, you shouldn't have to do this.
Yeah.
But I think it was cool that she saved his ass. Like,
yes, it kind of shows into the video game a little more. She's getting a little tougher, a little sooner in the show than the game. But I get it. I understand that. But I think that just it kind of adds that camaraderie, like that connection. Like, she's tough enough to save me, he's tough enough to save me. That kind of thing is building, and they want you to see that. And then they more or less just kind of hunker down. They got to sleep it off, figure out where they're going next or whatever. And that's kind of where the episode ends. Like, they kind of take a nap, and he puts a bunch of glass down.
Yeah.
And she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, oh, I want kind of, if anybody comes in, I want to hear them. And
she was like, oh, crunch, crunch, crunch,
I get it, the glass. And he's like, yeah, well, you get a really sweet moment though, before they actually fall asleep. And it was, she says, can I ask you a serious question? Because, well, like, first, before that, the more serious part, I guess, was he asked her, what did you mean it's the first time you've ever done, and not the first time you've ever shot a gun or killed anybody before? And she said, I don't want to talk about it. So we're going to find out about that later, obviously. So and he didn't press. He was like, okay.
He's like, okay.
And then he rolls over and she's like, Joel, I have a serious question. He's like, okay. And she was like, did you know diarrhea what was it? Was it diarrhea is genetic, right? Did you know that diarrhea is genetic? And he kind of leans over. He's like, what? And she was like, yeah, it runs in your genes. And they both just laugh really hard. And I liked that a lot. I mean, too. The great pun too. Yeah, so you got to hang on to that one. And I thought that was really cool. And then she falls asleep. He falls asleep. And you wake up to her yelling his name. And we have Henry and Sam. Are holding him up at gunpoint,
pointing their guns at him.
And Sam's just a little guy.
Yeah, he's a little guy, probably about, I would say,
10 years old, maybe.
Yeah.
And like, okay. And they struck me as Firefly. Like, instantly they struck me as Firefly, because they weren't trying to kill them. And Sam just gives a little shush, symbol, like, don't speak. And Joel just kind of lays there, and then that's it.
That's the end. Till this weekend.
Yeah. And I think we're at like a crux now. I think we're getting to a really high point in the show, and to see if it continues going upwards, I'm excited to see. But I think so far the show's killing it.
The previews, like, we always watch the preview afterwards, and it's still like, I'm like, okay, I can't wait. I can't wait. I want to watch it. Let's watch it.
They show a lot of fire, a lot of zombies, a lot of action.
Yeah.
And some new baddies, it looks like. So I'm really excited to see where they go with it. But it's going great. I am really enjoying it. I think we both are.
Yeah. And I do have a fun fact. So the Kathleen,
Yeah.
The guy who's with her in the basement when sees the big thing in the hole.
Yeah, big beardy guy.
Yeah. And he's like, we should tell somebody. And she's like, no, we should wait. He was actually the voice of Tommy in the video game.
Oh, dope. Nice. I did not know that. Hadn't looked that up yet. Right on. Little gamey fun fact from Heather. I like it.
Yeah. I get one every now and then.
Hey, that's okay. If I can get you to pay attention to video games, we're going. So if it just takes TV, then we're good. And just give us more awesome TV video game adaptations. We'll take them.
Yes, please.
Well, that is it. We're enjoying it. We're going to come back at the end. So we'll come back episode 9. So we've got 4 more episodes to go. 5.
5.
And 4. Yeah, because this will be our mid-season review, and we're coming back at 4, so we'll come back again at 5. Depending on something crazy happening, maybe we might come back in, might check back in again, but we'll definitely be back to wrap it up when it's done. I don't know, what is it? March 12th should be the final episode from what we're seeing here. And
this week's episode will actually come out early.
Yeah, on a Friday instead of a Sunday because of
the Super Bowl.
Yep.
Whatever.
Yeah, we wouldn't be watching the Super Bowl anyhow.
No.
We'd be watching this.
Yeah.
That would just be us. That's our style. But yes, if you guys are out there listening and you're enjoying these episodes, please click the like, help us share it. We want to talk movies and TV with more and more people. We do enjoy it when we get the free time to do it. And that's why we do it. Just to have fun with everybody out there and kind of grow an audience of other movie, video game, TV, all those fans.
People, yeah.
Yep. So we will be back in a few weeks. You might see us before. Who knows? Don't forget to check our TikTok. We try to get on there every once in a while, maybe a little bit more often than we have time to sit down and do a pod. We can do some small video content. Yeah, exactly. So until the next time, we will be back. And don't forget, go out there and watch something.